We've had quite a discussion here today on the Ed Shultz radio show, in and out, talking about the drone policy. Michael Isikoff, NBC News, reporting Monday night that the nature of the administration's drone program has the potential to dramatically revamp the president's foreign policy and maybe the confirmation process for his incoming cabinet. You never know. The report by Isikoff is a 16-page memo which he obtained, which was given to the Intel Committee last summer. It reveals that the Obama administration believes that high-level administration officials, not just the president, may order the killing of senior operational leaders of al-Qaeda or an associated force even without evidence they are actively plotting against the United States. Given to Congress in June, it is not the final Office of Legal Counsel memo that news organizations have sued to obtain. I mean, they want the whole thing. The paper states that the United States would be able to kill a U.S. citizen overseas when an informed high-level official of the United States government determines the target is an imminent threat, when capture would be infeasible, and when the operation is conducted consistent with applicable law of war principles. It's a mouthful. The legal limits, are they being stretched? Some people say yes. It's over the top. This all surrounds the taking out of an alleged terrorist, Anwar Awlaki. The Department of Justice legal counsel says that these targeted killings are within the Constitution. Constitutional experts are saying that the memo's definition doesn't hold up scrutiny. Where are we in all of this? Robert Greenwald, his Twitter handle is @RobertGreenwald. Brave New Films. Robert, good to have you back with us. You've done quite a bit of research on these drone attacks that have taken place in Pakistan and Afghanistan. What do you make of this story?
Well, I think it's really quite horrible. Having just returned or recently returned from Pakistan, where we're investigating drones and talking to politicians and drone victims' families and many others, it's a policy that's truly going to haunt the Obama administration and all of us because of the fact that so many innocent people are being killed. Now you add on top of this the notion that some lawyers have decided in the administration that the president and others. Now, who are those others who can decide which people and which Americans can be killed without any evidence, without any plans for a specific attack? It's really, words escape me in some ways, Ed, about how bad this is. And just think for a moment that this was the Bush administration. Cross out Obama and put Bush, put Cheney, and people would be beside themselves in terms of the policy and in terms of the facts. We don't know who we're killing there. When I was in Pakistan, when I talked to people, there's incident after incident after incident that even if the drones are accurate, where are we getting the information from? Well, we're getting the information by Pakistani ex-military bribing people in those areas.
That's where we're getting our information.
Absolutely. In Pakistan, yes, because the administration will say that. There's no CIA on the ground there. So how are they deciding who to target? In the film that we're working on in drones, a heartbreaking story, a 16-year-old boy comes to Islamabad for a conference. Now, if he was a terrorist, he wouldn't have come, number one. But if he was there, they could have picked him up. They don't pick him up. 2 days later, a drone hits him. Why? Because somebody was bribed and put apparently a GPS finder on his car. He and his 12-year-old cousin were assassinated because of wrong information, an arrogance by the CIA, and as one of the elected officials in Pakistan said to me, the notion the CIA has, we should just decide everything, and you guys get out of our way.
You used the word assassination. You believe that's what it was in this case?
Yes, it was. It was, and the U.S. had a long-standing history of opposition to assassinations for years when other countries did it. But that's what we're doing. And you can argue the merits of it. You can say we should do it. We can say we not do it. But that's what we're doing. We're deciding who should be killed without a court of law, without a trial, without ability to defend themselves. And people I talk to who live in the tribal areas of Pakistan, it's not only that the drones might kill them or their friends or relatives, it's their overhead all day long, all day long. The schools are empty. Their parents are afraid to send their children to school because they might be killed because of signature strikes where groups of people, they don't even have to have information about an individual with signature strikes. They can just decide it's a so-called pattern of behavior of a group of men who are together with rifles. Now, in that area, in the tribal area, every young man, every man under the, above a certain age has a rifle. And we have also evidence in our film about a terrible incident where over 50 tribal leaders were killed by a so-called signature strike. No evidence of any individual bad behavior.
In March of 2012, cut 22 on the big list today. This is Eric Holder, Attorney General, saying that they are not assassinations.
Some have called such operations assassinations. They are not. And the use of that loaded term is misplaced. It is entirely lawful under both United States law and applicable law of war principles to target specific senior operational leaders of Al-Qaeda and associated forces.
He says assassinations are a loaded term. He says that these are legal, that this is just basically how we're fighting the war on terrorism. You're on the ground in Pakistan. You're telling a different story.
Yeah. So that could be one debate. If we were targeting so-called high-value targets, then that would be a debate within the framework. But that's absolutely 100% inaccurate. It's not what's happening. Signature strikes are not targeting high-value targets. They're targeting, groups of people. And there's person after person, story after story, family after family that has had someone in their family murdered and killed, and it's not a high-value target. And that's where it breaks down. Now, I don't know if it's a disconnect within the administration, but, the study that we did a video for from Stanford and NYU, less than 2% of all of the 4,000 people who've been killed by drones are so-called high-value targets. Well, who are all the rest of those people?
Let's get back to your original point about who in the United States government is making the call. This report says it's not just the president. Where's the Senate Intel Committee on this? Why haven't there been any hearings on this? Why haven't we had the oversight so we know, or has there been oversight that we just haven't seen any publicity on it, that there are briefings that have taken place and senators on the Select Intel Committee have signed off on this? What about all that?
Well, again, because the policy is so clouded in secrecy, even the very memos that provide the legal justification the Obama administration will not release. They released the so-called torture memos. Why are they not releasing the memos that give the legal justification for this, number one? Number two, I believe that a significant part of the reason there have not been hearings and investigations is because there has been, sadly, for many years, a kind of bipartisan agreement that the way to make us safer is to occupy, kill, and that's going to protect us. Well, we've seen it hasn't worked. It didn't work in Vietnam. It didn't work in Iraq. It didn't work in Afghanistan. It's not going to work with the drones, and we need to challenge our elected officials, Democrat or Republican, and insist that there be hearings, that there be investigations, that there be transparencies, and that then there be a change of policy. How do we make ourselves safer? This is not the way to do it.
Is this a blockbuster report that could break this story wide open?
It's hard to know. I certainly hope so, and Mike Isikoff has done, all of us a great service in getting this, and the whistleblower, whoever got him the material, has done a great service. It certainly has people's attention. Whether that will continue is hard to know, but I think, it's one of the things that we hope to do with the documentary around drones, and there are many people now who are thinking about this, who are raising questions about this, and I think the legal challenges, Ed, are only going to get worse. There's a series of legal challenges. One of the gentlemen I was with in Pakistan had filed a lawsuit there insisting that the Pakistani government shoot down the drones and stop them from coming. There's lawsuits against some of the individual CIA members for war crimes around what's called so-called second tap or second strikes, when people who are going to help those who've been killed are targeted and drones attack them. So there's a lot going on, and it's not a pretty picture. And many of us who worked and believed in the president and what he stood for, this is not an easy, it's painful, it's difficult, but I think on a moral level, on a policy level, it's critically important that people think about this, educate themselves, and speak up.
All right, and I'll leave it with this. Watchdog groups and members of Congress have made repeated pleas for the administration to release internal documents outlining the rationale for the targeted killing program, especially when the target is an American citizen. NBC reports increased pressure on the administration to release additional documents. We'll see where it all unfolds. The White House did not immediately return a request for comment. This in the Huffington Post story that I read from, and, of course, the story from Michael Isikoff. Robert Greenwald, Twitter handle, at Robert Greenwald, Greenwald. Brave New Films, at Robert Greenwald. Great to have you with us, Robert. Always a pleasure. We'll follow up again. Thank you.